Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Thank you for joining us for the ABAN Masterclass on cross-border investment. We are delighted to have you join us for this session, and we look forward to having an interactive and insightful conversation. But first, my name is June Kangula. I am the project assistant at ABAN, and I'm really happy to see all of you who we have anticipated for this day, and let's get the conversation going. First, would love to know where you're connecting us from. You can post in the chat which country you're in, you're connecting from, and you can leave your name. You can say hello so that we can know who is here and we can know the names. If you can put your video on, that would be great as well, so that we can see each other. Can see Ruiz from Cabo Verde. We have Isabel from Mauritius. We have Laura from Kampala. Yeah, we have, yeah, I can see a number of people from South Africa, from Zanzibar, from Lagos. How is Lagos? I can see Ayanda from Johannesburg, from Kenya. Brenda is from Kenya. I am connecting from Kenya as well. It is really lovely to see you that we have a diverse audience from across the continent. I can see Tanzania, Barcelona. Oh, we also have diaspora. So yeah, we quite have an audience, and yeah, I can see Botswana. I can see from Mayoa, from Belgium. I don't know how to say hello in German. Maybe you can teach us. Uh, so as you continue to tell us where you're joining us from, I would love us to take a poll as well, as we also would want to know the kind of audience that we do have. I would want to know if you are a member of any angel investment network across the continent. Is it IBAN affiliated, or yours is not yet affiliated with IBAN? Maybe this is the time for us to convince you. So I will just publish a poll to let us know where you are joining us from. I think, Padilla, you can be able to publish that from your end. Okay, as we continue, first, I would want to walk you guys through the agenda for the session. We have so much packed for this session. We will have an introduction to ABAN for those who are new to ABAN. You'd love to know who is ABAN and our impact of late, and where are we located, and also the overview of the Africa Business Angel Investment Vehicle, the investment process, angel investor benefits, impact and sustainability. And also throughout the conversation, once you have a question, please jot it down, as we'll have a segment that will allow us to ask questions and have an interactive session, and then now an announcement and closure. So I will welcome Ayanda, who is our stakeholder management lead, to take us through the introduction to ABAN.
Good afternoon, bonjour, guten Tag, wherever you are. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa, and the weather here has still been great for an autumn afternoon. So in the spirit of wanting to enjoy that weather, I'll move us pretty quickly through my segments. You can scroll, June. Those of you who are unfamiliar with ABAN, the Africa Business Angels Network is the Pan-African community comprising of over 70 across 35 countries throughout the diaspora. We have so far tracked the investments to the amount of 25.5 million that has been invested by angels and deployed across 48 deals in 2023. If you want more information about that, our 2023 survey is available as well, with a lot of detail, including the investor network case studies, as well as a variety of demographic in terms of the composition of these angel groups and the sector focuses. Next slide, please. So the Africa Angel Network. It focuses primarily this year with the theme of collaborating and consolidating angel investing across Africa and the diaspora. Some of the core areas are, number one, making angel investing easier. And how do we do this? Through, number one, building awareness about what is angel investing, what is in local markets. And then number two, capacity building. So being able to show those individuals to the right networks, to the right training programs, and share the right resources in order for people to be able to collaborate, build new network, build new groups. And then in parts to that, or alongside that, it's being a part of the advocacy conversations. How do we make angels investing in local startups easier? And how do we make, as we will discuss in this call, investing in startups in other regional and neighboring markets even easier? Next slide, please. Okay, and how have we done that to date? Well, it's been done through Catalytic Africa. If you've not known about Catalytic Africa yet, we will drop the link in the chat box. But to date, there's been 3.1 million deployed through the Catalytic Africa Matching Fund program. And that has been deployed in about 21 innovative startups across 15 countries. There have been over 200 plus women investors across angel investors and 7 female leading networks participating as a part of this program. We've established 4 thematic angel networks that one can join. And June will post some more information about that in the chat group. But there's the digital trade, there's climate smart agriculture, there's clean technology, and smart cities. So please let us know if you'd like more information about those thematic angel networks. But it's really to try and catalyze some focus towards some key areas that we can really help to be able to pull together good communities as well as good startups and deal flow through the Catalytic Africa program with. Yeah, as I mentioned, if you want more information about that match funding program and how you can be a part of it or how you can review some of the results, we will drop that link to that report in the chat box. And that is all for me. So I'm going to hand over to the person or the people that you have come here this afternoon to see, for Dilla to take you through the vehicle that ABAN has recently launched about a month ago. Yeah, enjoy. That's it from me.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for some people and evening to some others as well. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going over an overview of the African Business Angel Investment Vehicle. Right, now, what is it that we're talking about? I think you're moving fast. Right, perfect. So what is it what we're talking about? We're talking about the African Business Angel Investment Vehicle, which has been established by ABAN. And essentially, ABF is a special purpose vehicle that has been designed to facilitate early-stage cross-border investment in African startups. It provides a structure for angel investors across Africa and the diaspora to support early-stage businesses in the region. And as we have worked on this vehicle, we had made sure that the ABF actually allows for investors to pool their capital together to invest in a single startup by consolidating small ticket sizes, but also making sure that the investment are inputted into the startup as a single entry. I would like to inform that ABF is actually owned by ABAN, which received the mandate to invest a specific pool of capital on behalf of a group of angels and distribute income in terms of, and then according to each investor capital contribution per transaction. And each angel is part of the transaction. In return of the capital, they receive an investment table showing the exposure into the transaction concerned. For example, If you are, as an angel investor, you have about $5,000 that you have invested into a transaction. It simply means that you have an interest of 10% on that transaction. Now, once the total capital is raised, a single investment in a startup is made, and ABAN, ABF will appear as a singular entry on the company cap table. There are key considerations to take into account. Number one, pre-investment, there are also some stakeholders that are involved in making sure that the whole process works as smooth as possible. As far as company selection, company due diligence, and term negotiation are concerned, these are actually elements that are led by the lead investors and other investors involved into the transaction. Number two, angel KYC, drawdown notice, and nominee deed are actually carried out by ABF, so the SPV. And of course, the second signatory is the angel investors involved. And number three, we have the investment documentation, and that include the simple agreement for future equity, SAFE, that we all know about, most favored nation agreement, and the pro rata agreement, also carried out and managed by ABF, and then signed in turn with the company receiving the investment. Now, as far as post-investment is concerned, we have a number of activities that also do take place in order to make sure that the transaction from end to finish happens well, but also the follow-up kind of activities that should take place in order to continue monitoring the startup benefiting from this investment. So number one, we have the investment data room. This is where you have access to all the documentation that have been signed between the company receiving the investment and ABF. You have access to also the reporting, which is a quarterly report that you receive as an angel investor on each transaction where you have exposure on. Apart from that, ABAN, ABF, ABAN, same thing, pretty much ensures that there's always legal compliance. And of course, we do manage relationship, making sure that we answer any question that angel investor may have concerning their transaction. And of course, not the least, but the most important step is actually providing value-added services to the company receiving the investment, because that is extremely important for this company to have the right exposure, to be connected to the right network, and to also have access to all the resources that will help them strive in their journey. Now, as far as ABF is concerned, I would like to talk a little bit about the fees associated to each transaction. Number one, we have the bank transfer. Well, each angel contributing to any investment will be expected to contribute between $25 to $50 per bank transfer. This cash is actually given directly to the bank. These are the fees that will be charged because of money that we're receiving and money that we're transferring to the benefiting startup. In terms of the management fee, for us, ABF has committed to make sure that there's no management fee for the first deals. Then there will be a one-time 200 annual management fee per transaction. As far as carry interest is concerned, which is a percentage of profit generated from exit allocated to both ABF and the lead investor. We intend to have a 10% allocated to ABF and a 10% allocated to the lead investor. Now, so what is it for you as angel investor to leverage on these SPV that have just been established by ABAN? Number one, we're talking about affordability. ABF will offer you, as investor, a flexible way to diversify your portfolio without requiring a large commitment as a sole investor. Number two is about risk dilution. Investing small amount, as you know very well, with multiple investors minimizes individual risk, while providing the benefit of investing in startup on the continent. Number 3 is all about simplification, making things as easy as possible. When multiple angel investors use a single SPV investment tool, it reduces the total amount of investors on the cap table. And as you know very well, that has been one of the biggest challenges for some of these startups when they go on to raise the follow-up rounds of capital. And number 4, we have networking with a large, kind of a lot more, a very diverse group of investors across Africa and the diaspora. And investing alongside experience and those who understand the nature of risk is a good way for you to meet other investors and to also increase the deal flow. And the last but not least is about diversifying your portfolio across the continent. You know very well that angel investors can gain through this SPV, can gain access to new and emerging markets and industry that are not available locally. Other key consideration that we wanted to discuss and to remain as transparent as possible. The SPV, ABEV, the Africa Business Angel Investment Vehicle SPV, that's actually its legal name, and is a limited company by share, 100% owned by ABAN Foundation. It was established in 2023 in Rwanda, and the directors are Hannah Sobaia Kamwanga and myself, Fadila Chumba. And this ABF is part of the larger network pretty much governed by the Kigali International Financial Center. Now, I would like to introduce you to Cindy Eliza Huvebana, who is the Business Development Manager from KFC, who will now jump on board to share with us why Rwanda and some of the benefits and opportunities that we can all leverage on.
Thank you, Fadila, for the introduction. As Fadila mentioned, ABEV is currently located in Rwanda and domiciled in Rwanda. And here are a few benefits that come with domiciling in Rwanda or why choosing Rwanda. So what makes KIFC unique? KIFC is Kigali International Financial Center, so the financial center here in Kigali. What makes Rwanda or Kigali unique is its compliance and transparency. It is third in Africa on the Corruption Perception Index, and it is third in Africa in economic freedom. Another key advantage is its Pan-African connectivity. So we have mobility, visa-friendly regime. If you're coming to Rwanda, you do not need a visa. You can access it directly at the airport. Another thing that we have is our Rwandair, our national airline, which flies to 27 capitals on the continent. And Rwandans speak both French and English. So once you're in Rwanda, you can connect to markets that speak French or English and different capitals. We also have an ease of operation in Rwanda. We're second in Africa in ease of doing business. Currently, you can set up a business in less than a day, and there is no controls on foreign exchange, foreign ownership, and profit repatriation. As we continue on a macro level, we're also increasing our tax treaty network. We currently have 20 DTAs or double taxation avoidance agreements. 13 are in force and 7 are currently waiting ratification. We're also increasing our partnerships. We're currently working with DFIs like BII to strengthen our frameworks and leverage on the existing relationships with BII and different institutions like LuxDev to improve the ecosystem here. Thank you. So on a micro level, why Rwanda? Why set up the SPV in Rwanda? We have different tax incentives, 3% on corporate income tax for an SPV that is domiciled in Rwanda, 0% on preferential withholding tax, dividends, interest, royalty payments. Those do come with economic substance requirements. We need a total net assets consolidated in Rwanda of 1 million USD, an annual expenditure in Rwanda of at least 15,000 USD, physical office in Rwanda, and at least 30% of local professional staff. That is the reason why ABAV is setting up in Rwanda and currently benefiting of some of the tax incentives. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And as now we have learned more about the investment vehicle by ABAN, and Cindy has walked us through why we did set up the investment vehicle in Kigali. Now I would want to invite Umulinga Karangwa, who is our climate smart agriculture investor and who recently went through the process, and she will walk us through a case study of the recent cross-border transaction as we learn more about the session. Welcome, Umulinga. Umulinga. I think she's on mute. Okay. As we wait for her, maybe she's lost her connection. Maybe Fadila can take us through. Fadila.
We can share the poll while we wait for Umulinga. Can you share the poll result?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
I can see. Okay, I can see Umulinga has joined. I think she lost her connection. Umulinga, can you hear me?
Hello, everyone. I'm very sorry I got connectivity issues. I hope you haven't been waiting for too long.
No.
Sorry. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be presenting to you something that we did thanks to the African Business Angel investment vehicle. So this is the first investment of that SPV that ABAN has set up. And this helped us syndicate a deal across different angel networks. We invested into a Ghanaian startup. And when I say we, these are angels from 3 networks: Nairobi Business Angels, that is based in Kenya; Angel Network Botswana, so based in Botswana; and Dakar Network Angels, that is based in Senegal. So 3 groups had a very strong interest into a Ghanaian agri-tech. A company called Legendary Foods. They do insect protein, and they are growing very fast with a model that has convinced investors that it can be scaled at very, very high production capacity. And we wanted to back this founder. She's a strong female founder. She attracted so much interest because she's also a second-time founder. It's her second startup. She has 1 exit of a company that she built in North America. And she found it, she will tell you, much more difficult to raise for a company in Africa. So we liked her very much. Her production process is allowing for large production of palm larva. So it's form of insect larva that is very nutritious. She does it for human consumption. Many of the insect protein businesses we've seen do it mostly for animal foods, but she does it for human consumption. It's a great story. It's a great brand. She has been very successful in terms of selling to customers in Ghana, both consumers and also businesses. So these three networks wanted to do this deal, and ABAN came at the perfect time because through the Climate Smart Agriculture Initiative, they could help us locate our investment into the African Business Angel investment vehicle. So the vehicle that Fadila has presented, this was a deal that was much smoother for us as angel investors than any other deals we've done. That is a combination, of course, of the experience of ABAN, who has been included. I mean, ABAN members have been closing so many deals all over the continent. But also, I must say, and of course, I might feel biased. I might seem biased because I'm from Rwanda, that the structure of the SPV in Rwanda is very agile when we compare it to the other domiciles where most of us African angels invest. So, for example, NIBAN, we've used Mauritius. It became a bit too difficult, so now we are using the UK. Some of us use Delaware, and in South Africa with Josie Angels, we do a lot of domestic deals because it's simpler. And Kigali, being a more recent domicile, has learned from all of these, the experience of all these angels and all these VCs and private equity investors. So I would say that it was smooth also because the jurisdiction has put a lot of things in place for it to be friendly to investors like ourselves. So we put a ticket between three networks. Because it was an easy and straightforward investment process, we could also attract angels from the diaspora. Some of those diaspora angels were investing for the first time with the angel network in Africa, and they were, of course, very enthusiastic because many of the diaspora angels want to invest back home, but it's very difficult to do. So this was a big success in that respect, attracting diaspora angels. And so that's what I can share about this first deal, Legendary Foods, that we've done, and the first deal of the African Business Angel investment vehicle. What I want to share with you now on the next slide is the potential that this shows. So the achievements of this deal show to us that what we can do with this vehicle now set up is that this vehicle will allow African angels on the ground to identify entrepreneurs that they see have high potential, entrepreneurs like the one we've invested in, or other entrepreneurs that are receiving investment from all the different 70 plus members of African Business Angel Network. And because these angels are on the ground, these angels are very experienced and they have great networks, they really have an advantage in terms of scouting for exceptional founders. So from that, the ABAN team is going to work with the local angels to help them syndicate the deal into the African Business Angel investment vehicle. And the vehicle will crowd in more capital. So if the angels are coming with the tickets, because that vehicle is working really well and is cost effective, the angels are now in a better position to attract co-investors, either fellow angels from other jurisdictions or outside of their angel network, but also these diaspora angels who are very keen to invest back home. And what ABAN can also do is what they've been very successful at is to amplify these entrepreneurs. ABAN has a continental platform that can be leveraged to give our founders, the founders we invest in, a much larger audience when they are looking for partnerships, looking for investments, or just doing general advocacy. And that is one of the natural advantages of ABAN from its size. I think it's quite powerful because from this deal, our investee company got a lot of visibility, and that has helped her unlock more capital. She recently has raised funds from the Climate Resilient Africa Fund. That's a quite large VC that is backing founders that are typically more advanced than what we invest in. And she's also attracted funding from family offices. So this is a huge success story. And I hope that after this presentation, we can see it replicated many times, because there's a lot of need for capital on the continent. And this vehicle is a way to attract more capital for our founders and for help for startups in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Umulinga, for that detailed presentation. And I hope with that case study, more people will be enthusiastic to now invest in the continent. As you have said, we need the capital. And so we're going to launch another set of poll. And with these sessions that we have had, these conversations that we have had from Fadila, from Cindy, and now Umulinga, we would want to know, have you ever been part of a syndicated deal? Have you actively considered investing in startups in other regions? And the third question, if ABAN SPV is something that you're looking for. And also, yeah, please let us know in the chat, or you can ask your questions as we have drawn close to now the Q&A. And I would want to hear from you because we have been speaking all through. So I will welcome Ayanda to take us through this session, and we can look into the questions that have been highlighted in the chats, and we can have this conversation going. Thank you, Umulinga.
Great. So we're sharing the results on the poll that was launched so that you can see as well. There are quite a few members who have actually been a part of syndicated deals, some experience in the room. So I've seen a few people doing it, but if you haven't shared your LinkedIn profile, then share your LinkedIn profile just to make sure that you can connect with some of these experienced angels in the room. And then the second part of the poll in terms of actively considered investing in other regions, and there's a 28% yes, but also 54% that says yes, but didn't know where to start. So we hope at this point you're getting some pointers. We hope at this point you're getting at least a sense of direction. And if you're not, let us know in the comments. And we'll make sure to start to connect you with some people more strategically, depending on exactly what it is or where it is that you'd like to begin or where it is that you're based as an angel. And then lastly, is an SPV something that you would find useful for your network? And 54% said yes, they are in the right place. And for the 44% that say they're still unsure and want to do some research, we are going to be launching an inquiry form right about now. So Favor or June, please can you drop that inquiry form? You can leave us a bit of your information in terms of where you are, which countries you're interested in investing in, and we will pool that information in terms of being able to try and make the right connections, but also try and filter through some more information than we could give in the session in order to not overwhelm everyone, of course, more specifically to you based on your needs. So let us know. We're going to drop in the sign-in form in the chat box. But to get to some of the questions that were shared, I think I'll start with Fadila. Fadila, the first question I saw earlier in the poll was, what is the minimum check size that can be, that one can participate in a deal with this vehicle?
Thank you so much for the great questions. And because we really, this vehicle was actually set up to further facilitate and encourage individuals across the continent and abroad to invest together, we will go as low as $1,000, right? In the past transaction that we have closed, the minimum ticket was about $2,000, and the highest amount that we have received from a contributing angel was about $15,000.
Great. And I think I will throw the second question that I've seen here through to Umulinga, just based on the fact that you were a lead investor in a deal now. But the question was in terms of going about your due diligence when leading a deal like this. And as well as maybe the second question we can add on there in terms of how did you source your deal, and how do you source deals for to lead an investment like this?
Thank you for the question, Ayanda. So two important points, deal sourcing and then due diligence. So in terms of deal sourcing, I've invested into founders that either were referred to me or who I met personally. And that's because usually I really want to have like a good understanding of who the person is, because you're really investing in a person or in a group of persons if there are multiple founders. And that's really how I invest. But others can be doing things differently. They would be investing in a group and not necessarily meeting the founders either online or in person. It really depends on what you're looking for and what you want to invest in. What is driving me is really jobs, and that's why I've done a lot of more of agricultural food type of deals. They have to be scalable, so it would be typically agri-tech. But I like this sector because it creates lots of jobs. Most Africans today are still farmers, and by investing in agriculture, we are creating more sustainable jobs or a high income for jobs that already exist. So that's how I source my deals. I think that the best way to get access to deal flow is to join an angel network. Angel networks usually have good contacts with incubators, or they are visible. So anyone who's raising funds would know to contact them and to get in touch for feedback or for funding. So I think that's the best way to source deals, to join an angel network. And ABAN has now members in most of the continent, most of the countries of the continent. So go on the website, check who your local angel group is, and don't be shy, get in touch. And if you don't have the contacts, we can of course help you. Fadila, June, and Favor can put you in touch with them. Or of course, you will also, Ayanda. Second question, due diligence. So this company had a quite simple production process that they could explain to us. So we looked at the production, the sourcing, the clients that they are servicing, and we got a good understanding of what the potential was, what the risks were, how she's mitigating these risks. We went into quite some details. That's also because she was a second-time founder. She had one of the most organized data rooms I have seen, and we even had their information about disgruntled employees and things like this. So we went into quite some details, and after, I would say, like maybe a month and a half of discussions, fact finding, we made our call and decided to invest. It might be more difficult to DD a startup that doesn't involve like physical production, like a pure software, like the SaaS type of businesses that angels like to invest in, because there it's less, I would say, practical. I mean, except if you are, of course, many people can DD tech and can DD apps and can DD digital information. For me, of course, it's not the case. I'm not a tech person. But yeah, so DD is very important. It is not always easy because startups don't always give you access to the information in an organized way. But yeah, it's really important, especially because it's important to remember that many of the investments that you make as an angel will go bad. Because most startups still fail. We try to back those that we see will not fail. So if you don't want to have difficult conversations with your co-investors, if you need a deal, and if you don't want to have regrets or else, do your DD properly. You always have to make sure that you don't become a burden for the founders, because they are lacking time and lacking money. They don't need someone to send them extremely long questionnaires. So DD has to be measured also. I'm a member of Nairobi Business Angels, and what I like is that NIBAN, that comes from the founder, Nick, says we are founder first. So the DD is not about making the founder's life more difficult. We shouldn't send questionnaires that are too cumbersome to respond to. We shouldn't ask for like birth certificates or things like these that are not really relevant to the business. Yeah, it shouldn't last too long. If it's too long for you to decide, then maybe it's not the right investment for you. Move on and then let the founder focus on investors that are more likely to be a success, that are more likely to invest and lead to success for him. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Umulinga, for that answer. And then for Dilla, I'd like to throw the last two questions to you, and I think I'll bundle them together. The first question is around just clarifying on the management fee, so the annual management fee that will come into place. And then secondly, also maybe just clarify the level of involvement that ABAN will have regarding the governance once the investment is made.
Right. So as far as government is concerned, we're very, very meticulous on making sure that we are compliant both internally, but also compliant within the Rwandese, let's say, legal framework. And for that, we are working in collaboration with a service provider based in Rwanda. And as you know very well, if you are syndicating for a deal, there are a number of fees and costs related to actually making sure that transactions are closed. So the first fee that I referred to was bank charges. And you know very well that when you transfer money into a dedicated account, that money, once it hits the ABF account, it will then be transferred back will then be transferred to the company actually benefiting from the investment. So essentially, we expect the individual angels to actually cover for that bank charge that would be associated to transferring the contributing amount. So the second fee that I've mentioned was about management fee. And the management fee is all fee related to investor relation kind of engagement, making sure that the investors do receive the right documentation pertaining to the transaction, such as the drawn down notice, because we do have to keep a good track record of those documents in case we are asked to present them in Rwanda from the compliance office. We have to present those documentation. So we're also talking about the nominee deed that is also very much required from each individual to sign, and that would be definitely correlated with the amount that they have invested per transaction. And it's all about making sure that these documentations are actually well kept and they have been duly signed by the authorized signatory for the deal concern. But apart from that, I think the weight of the work is actually making sure that every single angels contributing is timely informed on how the deal is progressing, what various contracts have been signed, but also what are the other needs that we have received from the company. As you know, these companies they're still at a very early stage. So it's not just capital that they need. Apart from the capital that will be given to those companies, they will need support with, for example, accessing different potential clients, right, that we can leverage on our ABAN network to actually access those potential clients. They might want to expand into a different market. And this is where ABAN jumps on board to also source for those needed kind of services that will be very much needed from the company benefiting from the investment. So the management fee is really around making sure that we comply internally, we make sure that we satisfy all individual investors, and we also make sure that we comply to the legal framework in Rwanda. And the usual fee that is charged by, well, different SPV charge different fees, depending on where, which instrument you would like to use. I know that some syndicate group will charge around $500 annually. Some will charge a one-time fee of $500. And we know that this is a new instrument that truly works. And we have decided to actually make it free of charge, well, the management fee at zero for the first 10 deals. And then later on, you would be required to pay $200 annually to support the work that would go into making sure that we actually comply and provide the needed value-added services to the company benefiting from the investment. Ayanda? You're on mute.
You think by now we've had Zoom down. Another quick question just came in with regards to handling the volatile exchange currencies and how you'd manage that.
Well, one thing that we have taken into account is the fact that we only receive a contribution in two currency, either dollars or euros. And it's very interesting. Actually, it's a very interesting question because for some markets who want to properly manage it, they will rather invest in local currency. And this might not feel, well, this SPV might not be a compelling proposition for some angels residing in Nigeria, earning in the local currency, but it can quite be a compelling proposition for other angels in different countries. So with regard to that, we'll try and work on a solution that could actually make it also very much compelling for investors that have, let's say, that are currently having concern with the currency volatility or currency fluctuation. So if anyone on this call is interested to having conversation with us, we're more than happy to take on that conversation and see how we can find a solution for those segment of angel investors.
Okay, great. I think that is the breadth of so far. Let me just see. Ooh, yeah, here come two more. What do we get from ABAIV to materialize our investments as we are not shareholders?
So so the structuring of this SPV was done extremely with a lot of we had done a lot of kind of market analysis, also studied the various SPV that were established by networks either in Mauritius or elsewhere. And this was the idea kind of structure that we wanted to propose to our members. Number one, ABAN will not own the asset, right? This is a pure vehicle that facilitates the investment. So that's the reason why whenever you're really are ready to invest with a group of other individual investors, you have to give the mandate to ABAN to invest on your behalf. And that asset doesn't belong to ABAN at all. It belongs to you. And we also make sure that from a local perspective, that the process is duly followed, making sure that we can identify who owns what within that SPV by keeping track of the various contracts and by making sure that the individual investors do also have access to those contracts.
Perfect. I think we'll make these last two questions, but I'll throw this other one to you, Omulinga. Yeah, sure.
Yes, also for sure. Happy to take another question, and I wanted to add to what Fadila said because I know Fabrice. So hello, Fabrice. And Fabrice is member of the DNA Angel Group, like I was, and Fabrice invested into the DNA vehicle. So this one is very similar, except that it's a bit, let's say it's a version 2.0 because ABAN came after DNA. And ABAN has learned from DNA's experience. So it's like the same thing as DNA. So you are a shareholder, and you'll be informed of any exit or any follow-on investments. However, ABAN will play a role similar to the role of a GP. So not all of the shareholders have to be involved into everything, like it is the case in the DNA SPV. So Fabrice, your question is very valid, but you are as much a shareholder as you are into other SPVs.
And
so I
Since you
Sorry,
said,
sorry.
Ayanda, it would be great to also add that since you also use the DNA example, I'd like to share that this was done deliberately also because we wanted to pretty much facilitate as many transactions as possible. If we had only selected a number of individual investors and have them as shareholders of the SPV, for the next transaction, we'll have had to structure another SPV, which will have increased the amount or the cost associated to actually setting up SPVs, which we know very well that our angel investors are very sensitive to pricing. So it's really making sure that we're able to deploy capital on the continent in collaboration with the diaspora as cost effective as possible. Of course, making sure that while doing that, complying to the legal requirement of the country and as well as our internal procedures. Back to you, Omolinga.
Thank you, Fadila. So, Ayanda, did you mean the last question to be the one on exits?
Yes, if you could tell us what's the extra strategy here.
So in the case of Legendary Foods, she is going to work very hard at growing to the point where she could be acquired. They have been, I mean, that's the most likely exits. Many angels, when they start angel investing, they look at IPOs, but there are so few IPOs in the continent, and our stock markets are great, so that's not a very realistic exit. I prefer founders who, like the founder of Legendary Foods, are very pragmatic and look at growing the business, making it very successful, profitable, and attractive for a larger food company to invest in. She's doing very well with that. She's already built a partnership with Indomie, a company that we know very well on the continent because many of us have eaten Indomie noodles. And so that shows that she's going to go more towards a strategic partner route, which hopefully will lead us to an exit. And yeah, not an IPO. I've never exited a business yet. It's really something that is not easy to reach in Africa. Fadila and I were in a meeting today. She was there digitally, and I was there in person, and we discussed exits. And people will say, like, at this stage, what we need is to pray for exits. Yeah, many of us need exits, and it's the hard part of it. So don't go into angel investing hoping for a quick exit. It will take time. And go in it because you are passionate about it and you want to help people creating jobs on the continent, because exits are taking time to come.
Indeed it is. Thank you so much, Umalinga. I think, Fadila, if you can just close us off with just highlighting once again the difference between the Catalytic Africa Matching Fund and the ABIV, so that people know these two different programs that are available.
All right. Thank you so much, Ayanda. So first of all, thanks to everyone who have joined us this afternoon. And thank you for listening. And we will be welcoming any other additional questions after this session. You can connect with us via email, or if you do have my personal WhatsApp, you're more than welcome to send me a WhatsApp question. I will be able to answer it. And as far as as you know very well, for the past, since 2015, ABAN work has truly been about building individuals willing to support the growth of the African startup ecosystem. And we have been doing that through various means. We started with training, making sure that we transfer the knowledge to those individuals and making sure that they are able to invest in a consistent but also professional manner. So we have done a lot of investor toolkit, by also provided them with necessary tool such as investment documentation to facilitate any investment from Francophone Africa to the Anglophone Africa, East, West, but also Northern Africa. And for the past 2 years, we have been working on Catalytic Africa, which is a co-matching solution that was established essentially to co-invest with our angel network across the continent. And given our 1.5 million that was raised through AFD, we're able to deploy that capital, co-investing with our angel investors and angel networks in about 15 different countries. And we had about 21 companies on the continent benefiting from that pool of capital. And we're currently raising additional capital to continue this great solution because we have received a lot of positive feedback. But we have also seen that Catalytic Africa is truly a tool that could be leveraged on to accelerate the capital raising for startup on the continent. And especially given that with that capital that they have raised, they were able to build a track record that later on allowed them to raise additional rounds of funding from VCs and other DFIs. So that's Catalytic Africa. And the outlook of Catalytic Africa is very simple. We have 3 different pathways. The first is we're creating a gender lens Catalytic Africa pool. This gender lens will co-invest with our angel network in female-owned or led company across the continent. So, and we also do have a country-specific capital pool that will be dedicated to specific countries across the continent. Of course, leveraging on the 72 networks of angel investors across the continent and the diaspora. And the third one is actually the thematic focus pool. Catalytic Africa thematic focus pool. And this thematic focus pool will be able again to co-invest with our angel investors and angel network in specific sectors of activities on the continent. Now, the difference between Catalytic Africa and the SPV is number one, the SPV is an instrument that will pull in capital from various investors across the continent and the diaspora, right? In such a way that it will be compliant. Of course, for some countries, like the KFC have mentioned earlier on, we'll have to discuss about it, like the US and others. We have to discuss about it to make sure that they are tax compliant also from the original source of fund, from the country of, from the tax compliant at the level of the country where the money is coming from. And the second element to it is that the SPV ABF was actually set up to further bring together angel investors and making sure that they can collaborate at a faster pace and also use the experience to support the various startups that are emerging across the continent. And lastly, the SPV is truly an instrument for startup expanding into various other markets and for angel investor having exposure in different markets, which is a bit different from Catalytic Africa because Catalytic Africa mostly focuses on local markets and leveraging on existing investor in those local markets. I hope that helps. And if you would like for us to have a deeper conversation about it, once again, we are available to have a one-on-one call, and you just need to shoot me an email and I will be able to connect directly with you. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to collaborating with you and increasing the level of investment that our startup on the continent are receiving. Bye-bye.
Bye, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much. Remember, if you still want more information, please fill out the form that we have shared, and we will make sure to connect you just based on your inquiries to the appropriate people if you've not connected tonight already. And the recording will be shared as well early on in the next week so that you can review some of this material. But based on the poll results, we can already see that a lot of you have learned a lot and a lot of you are excited about syndicating investments. So that's great. Yep, that really was all from our side. We have no further announcements. So thank you so much for taking your time this late afternoon. Thank you to Cindy from KIFC. Thank you, Umalinga. And thank you to the ABAN team. And I wish the rest of you a good Friday evening and a pleasant weekend ahead. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Have a wonderful weekend.
Somebody has. Remember to stop recording so that we're done.